So welcome back to another episode of the Just Jamie podcast. And I'm so excited for my first in-studio guest because I've always been just kind of yammering and Zach is keeping me company, but I'm so jazzed you are here. Kay, who is a new friend of mine and a filmmaker, and I thought had, kind of my Badass Woman series that I just think you have such an interesting story, and I thought it would be awesome to have you as a guest because we met July 20-something, and I just did a liquidation episode, so hopefully you'll find it interesting. Yeah. But I think it was a God shot that we were put in each other's lives.
Definitely.
Because I had just filmed the first 3 episodes, and I walked into your store, not exactly, probably the person you wanted to see, right?
No.
You just got terrible news. The store was closing. And I think it was at very first, I don't know if I said something about the podcast first or if you mentioned you're a filmmaker, and then I was like, are you kidding me? Like, it just immediately became clear.
Absolutely.
Why we met. And I know that may sound, and I know you're a woman of faith. And
yes, absolutely.
I was like, I just knew. I was like, and I felt like I was at film class every time I went to your store.
Yes, exactly.
But just the idea that you've been so encouraging to me doing this because it's been a passion project that obviously I would love to turn it into more of a business, but I love talking to interesting people. And when you said you're a filmmaker and then you told me how many movies you've made and, oh, by the way, you write them all, like, I was fascinated. So like, if you, a little background, so the audience look at, like, how did you even get started? How did you?
Well, I started doing stage plays first.
Ah, yes.
And so when COVID hit, 2020 is when I started doing movies because you couldn't be in like large crowds, couldn't do theater. So I was like, I got with the cast and I was like, let's do a movie. I had no idea what I was doing.
Really?
None whatsoever. And I got the little group together. We shot the film. It wasn't my best, but I put it out there and everyone loved it.
But so we were just talking before you got here, just in the sense of like that COVID turned a lot of people into doers and they were not going to be kind of thwarted, right? They weren't going to see this as a downtime that was going to ruin their lives. And they're like, this is the time to do whatever. And some people completely shut down and their world ended as we know it. But so you didn't own a camera. You didn't own anything. You were like, let's do this.
Yeah.
Did you just research? Like, how did you know what camera to buy? Like,
oh, I knew what camera I needed.
Oh, okay.
But of course I'm I fund everything. So at that time I couldn't afford the camera that I needed.
Okay.
So I got something that would start me off.
Gotcha.
And it was like $1,200. And so I went on and purchased it but
don't even gloss over that. Like, that's a huge thing, right? Like, because you're a mom and you're working, and the idea of $1,200 expenditure, if you asked me for that, I'd be like, over how many years? Like, that's a chunk of change.
Yeah.
But you took the risk on yourself, and like, was it scary hitting add to cart? Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, it kind of sat in the car for a long time.
Really?
Looking at it, yeah. Because I was like, do I need to do this? Or, and then, I actually bought another camera just like for a low backup, but it wasn't the best. But that was the best thing I ever done. Like that investment alone was the best thing I ever done.
Did you feel empowered? Like when you say it's the best thing you ever did, because it set you on a trajectory of like.
Once I bought that camera, I knew I wasn't going to stop. Period. Because, a lot of people ask me, how do I get started? What do I do? Get started. That's the answer. It's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just do it. The only thing is, I would say, if you're trying to get out into the film world, you have to be able to have thick skin. If you don't have it, this ain't for you. Period. Yeah. Anything you do, actually.
100%.
Because you're going to have your critics, and your critics sometimes start with family, which is good. It's
well,
good.
Yes, and I appreciate you saying that, because sometimes, like I think it was our first listener question where the family was, are they genuinely scared for you? Like they're worried for you, like what, you take this risk, I'm worried for you. Or is there a little jealousy and they hate you because they ain't you? And it's like they didn't even know they were sort of trying to tear down your dream. Like that's an interesting dynamic. Like
it's both.
Yeah.
Because like I had some say, you're a single mom, what are you doing? You're wasting your money. And then I had some people keep saying, keep going. Yeah. So you get a mix of both. Then you got some, she ain't gonna make it. She'll eventually stop.
Yep.
You're gonna hear that from everywhere. The goal is to never stop, is to make them a liar. And that's my goal.
I was going to say, is sometimes on those days that you want to quit, is it that little voice, like mostly has to be internal?
Well, I always say, my mom always say, God's got his hand on your back and it's heavy. So if you allow him to keep it there, you're not going to stop. So I kind of use that there. So when I hear like things in the street, what they've said about me, I don't care because I know what my goal is. I set my own goals, several goals. So my whole thing is to get to them.
So how many movies have you done now? Because I know you just wrapped one.
Like 7.
I mean, you say it so like, I hope you're insanely proud, because that from 2020 when you're like, I think I want to do this, to now 2024, and you've done 7 and they're on all these platforms, and we'll link all of her movies by the by. So you can, because you showed me a few and I have to watch them because I saw a couple of the snippets. I'm like, well, how did that dinner party end?
Yeah.
Like, I need
That's
to know.
The newest one. So you got a sneak peek of the newest one.
I know, I'm so excited.
Don't say nothing.
I won't. But it's just like, 7 movies is no joke. And so how long does it take you, I guess, from concept to writing it?
Well, I can write a script in 2 weeks.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah, if you leave me alone.
Right.
Like if my family leave me alone.
Or if you have a liquidator.
Oh, yeah. So I was working then, so it was hard to do. So I would set like goals. You have to write on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Okay.
And you have to give yourself a time frame.
Okay.
So that's how I write quickly.
So it's like you would go to work, you wouldn't make it, you would give yourself like parameters. Like if I don't show up on these 3 days, then I'm not showing up for, even though there's no money for those 3 days. It just, you have to dedicate the time.
You have to dedicate your time. Actually, I watch, and people are going to be like shocked, but I watch a lot of Stephen King's lectures.
Okay.
And he has really, it was very informative of how you should write, how you to stay steadfast on doing it. And some of those things I got from him. So that's the reason why I say, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I stay to it. And then my kids know if my door is closed, don't come in there because I'm writing most of the time.
But that's a huge, I would think, gift you're giving them, even though in the moment they may not get it, whatever. But you're showing them a single mom making her dreams happen, which is also funding their lifestyle, right? And the fact that you have to respect, I might be at home and I'm behind closed doors, but like I'm working on big things back here.
Oh, absolutely.
But I mean, so as a woman in the business, you decided you're, going to do this. Besides the people thinking you're crazy, you won't do it, you can't do it, it's not going to work, then it started working. Then did you get, as a woman, like I know I've run into some different things that maybe my male counterparts don't, as a woman of color, do you find like different kind of pushbacks?
Oh, yeah. When people ask me, what do you do? I do movies. Some of them chuckle. Some of them, they just stare at me. They think I'm crazy or, oh, she ain't doing nothing. That's within their mind. But I just smile on the inside. I don't let them see me smiling. But it goes back to that I'm going to prove them wrong kind of thing. Because as a woman, we do have to go against the males in the industry, and sometimes they get to go a little bit further than we do, but we have to stick together as women filmmakers and just keep going. Don't let their egos stop you from your dream and your vision. So
like the first episode I did today, we were talking about how like women build up women, right? It's a great bumper sticker, but I sometimes find, and maybe this is controversial, that's not always the case, right? That just because a woman walks into the room, there's immediate, like, I don't often find that just because we are 2 women that we're going to hit it off.
Right.
And it's almost like, or it's almost expected that we don't, or that we're catty, or that we're this, or we have to get. So I find that dynamic interesting. Like the women lifting up women it's a nice thing to say, but sometimes in practicality, that is not what you encounter. And sometimes how do you keep that from like holding you back, right? Like,
because I'm going to stay being positive. Right. I don't care what they put off. And if I see that this is the kind of, spirit that they have, if they're negative, if they're, don't want to push up, I'm going to continue to push them up, inspire them.
Okay.
I don't care if I don't get it in return, because I have already built my faith, my spirit up for that. So what they give and project off on me, it doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah, I think that's so profound because it's hard to do, right? Like when you are not getting it back, right? When you don't get sort of that positive energy back, it's very difficult to always take the high road, right? Because
Right.
then, but I think whether it is your faith or something like that, where you can sort of teach people through how you act and why is she like that. You're not looking for validation from outside, because I don't think you would have ever gotten one movie made if
No.
the first no, you're like, oh, okay, it was a dumb idea anyway.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people. So the first time a movie was purchased, put up on one of the streaming services, was it like, what was your, ooh, gee, as I wrecked the whole set. But what, like, how did you feel? Was it insane?
It was insane. It was well, the first one was supposed to go up on a platform, and something happened with my website, and that broke me down completely.
So the movie was lost? Or?
It wasn't lost. It was it just didn't get on the platform like I wanted to. And I mean, I'm talking, I almost went to depression. I remember laying on my mom's lap saying, "Mom, this is not happening." And she was just like, "Girl, please, God is still in control." And that's just what she would say. So she was like, "You just can't give up because it's not on there. Just make another movie." And that's kind of like what I did. Well, I made the second movie because of her. She was like, "I need a part 2." And that's kind of how that happened.
Okay.
And then after that, it was the third one. And it hasn't stopped since. So,
and your attention to detail, you were talking to me once about B-roll. I'd seen the beginning of a movie where it was sort of like drone footage going into that town. And then there was like a different vantage point with a train going by. I was just telling my husband about this. And I was like, I'm like, did you shoot this? It was so cool. You're like, no, I sourced a different one. Like there's other... Like you always think about that next step, your attention to detail. Like I could use the same B-roll as maybe other folks, but I want to take it up a notch. Like, but I'm sure that costs you extra money, extra time.
It costs money.
And then like all your music is original. You own all the rights. They're in
Nigeria.
Thank you, Nigeria.
Shout out to AB.
Yeah. Hi. I saw you once on Zoom.
Oh, right.
Or
That's
on
right. It was WhatsApp.
FaceTime or whatever.
WhatsApp,
yeah. But I think like. So I've got a dream, whether it's filmed or whatever, like I wouldn't even know how to find the Nigerian original music makers. Like, how did you even source these folks? Like,
well, my aunt, I forgot what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for music. I was looking for someone to do a posters design. And she said, go on Fiverr. They'll do it. And so I went on Fiverr and I got something done. And then I saw that there were singers on there. And I was like, oh God, let me find them. And I found I have so many. So and then from there, we've been friends, 3 years now? So.
And you kind of tell them the vibe of the music
I write
you're
the
looking
music.
for.
I write the music.
That's
They
right.
sing
You write
it.
your music. Of course you do.
Oh, yeah.
Because God forbid she doesn't write her own music. I mean, it's like...
Yeah. So, yeah. And I've long-standing relationships for 3 years now.
Because the networking, I think, is... We were, again, talking about that right before you got here, is that, it's hard to do. It's easy to say, but hard to do, right?
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of gatekeepers, right? If I give you my great B-roll, my singers, my this or that, and, am I letting go a trade secret that is my edge? That's the thing that makes my movies different or whatever. Like, I just think... No,
I don't care.
Right.
I'm not going to gatekeep. You can find good singers on Fiverr and they don't cost as much. So for filmmakers, you need to write your own music so you can own your own music. And that's some good advice.
Well, just the advice you gave me about the subtitles and putting content in other places. Like I knew nothing about, sort of what we were talking about, and the fact that you're like, if I know it, I'll share it.
Yeah.
And that's sort of how I am, whether, I talk too much about nonsense that other people don't care about, but it's my show. I can talk about whatever I want. But that's where we were saying, like, what were we going to talk about? It was like, we could talk for hours. We always have.
Yes.
We always got work done too.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, as long as anybody knows. But I think it's just, there's not enough of this sort of out there where there's a lot of expert podcasts for just like, medicinal things or health or, I'm not a board certified anything, but I'm a talkaholic and I really, I know interesting people. Exactly. And I just think sharing, especially as a woman, a single mom, and I know you did not have the easiest life. So sort of, I don't want to delve too much, but like you're a survivor of domestic violence.
Oh, yes.
And for anybody else watching this, like how the heck did you get,
through it?
Sorry about that. That's so unprofessional.
No, you're fine. No, domestic violence is, I'm okay because I'm healed from it now. But that's the story of the movie Escape Devotion, which is doing very, very well.
Yay, knock on wood.
I know it's doing really good. Domestic violence should be always talked about. A lot of people don't even like us doing movies.
Well, that's why I didn't want to bring it up, but I'm so glad
okay.
you did because you're so right. It does need to be discussed.
Yeah, it's like it's under a rug. Women are scared to come forward. But don't be. Come forward and get out of it before it's too late.
Do you think they're afraid because they think they're alone? Or
I know what it is because I've been in it.
Go ahead.
You're afraid because of him. You know, you're protecting him still, like everybody do. Like everybody does, you know. Oh, he would never do that. But you're not in the home,
right?
So stop saying that, you know.
Right.
And then some reality is moms don't want to realize that this is what they raised, and that's another different. That's a whole different story.
That's a good one.
I mean, it is. It is what it is. You know, can they be forgiven? Absolutely. Can they change? Yes, if they want to.
Right.
Oh, but the abuser has to want to.
Right.
And so some of these women, even with the movie Escape Devotion, I did put a lot of just abuse, and they thought it was brutal. But this is reality.
Right.
And there was no good moments, although there were good moments in the relationship, but I wanted to show the abuse. And then they didn't.
Because you fall in love with the man, right?
Exactly.
They don't necessarily show you that right up front.
No.
It's almost like the love bombing, right? That they,
exactly.
You know, make you feel like the most amazing. So when it turns, you are like, no one will believe me because he's so charming to the outside world. And he wasn't like that in the beginning. And then mom and dad helped raise this.
They don't believe it.
And then, like you were saying, the one scene, and I won't say anything so people can watch it.
Right.
But it was particularly raw. And people thought it was over the top, and you're like, no. Like it's all about like the power struggle and just, but how did you eventually find, like, how long were you in it before you got out of it?
7 years.
Wow. Oof.
So people say I couldn't stay that long. You cannot say that unless you're in it. And then there's kids involved.
Yes. And
because it wasn't always him abusing every day. We would go 6 or 7 months with none.
Right.
And see, that's what people don't understand. Abuse don't have to be every day he getting hit.
Right.
But it's sometimes it'll go, 6 months. We didn't went on trips. He done gave me flowers. He done bought me jewelry. And then all of a sudden he done had a bad day, and it's going to be taken out on you. So, yeah.
And you never knew, did you live on constant eggshells, or after like 3 months, did your guard go down? 4 months, your guard went down? Or were you constantly on high alert?
No. You learn to not say stuff that you knew is going to make them mad. And that's sad. That's bondage.
Yep.
Because if I can't speak to you, because see, they try to shut down communication because they don't want to take accountability.
Right.
So they shut down communication because you're not going to say nothing because you don't want to go through it tonight.
Yep.
So I've been through that, you know, and so I want women, and there are women abusing men too.
For sure. Yes.
Okay,
No,
that's
100%.
a whole nother story. If verbal abuse is a whole big thing. You don't have to be hitting. You can say some mean things. And I think that's why I storytell. And most of my movies, all of my movies actually are real life stories. And I'm never going to deviate away from that because like there's somebody out there that's going through this. So I get in the comments, I see where, it was over the top, it was too much, ain't nobody going through that. Yes, somebody.
Do you ever comment back that no?
I could care less.
Okay.
Because I don't get into the comments because first of all, the internet is one big bully.
Yeah.
So like I don't care about what they say.
Okay.
But you know,
there's some woman watching that was like, this isn't even close to over the top.
No,
right?
Now you're right. But what they don't realize is the inboxes that I get from women thanking me.
See?
So that means more to me than anybody saying it was the worst movie they ever seen. Do you understand what I'm saying? So when so-and-so inbox me and say, thank you so much for, writing this film.
It's like I was watching me.
Yeah.
Right?
So I help people. I don't care about what they say in the comments. I could care less.
Now, like one time I had posted something on LTK about Thrive Cosmetics, and they give a lot of money and time and product to people suffering from domestic violence. And a woman, it was a silly Facebook post. And she was like, my family and we were in a shelter, and she's like, it wasn't even sample size. It was full size product. It was the first time I felt pretty. And I was like, I was just talking about like, I enjoyed their product, and they are a little bit more, but I'm like, well worth the money because of it's cosmetics. They give back, and so many companies don't. But the idea that like this person, and knock on wood, I've lived, a very ideal life. Like I've not had any of the struggles that you have had. And I think to myself, man, when this girl or woman wrote back to me, I was like, whew, this isn't just a makeup post. This is, she got, she was in a shelter, and I can't even imagine you doing what you do and hearing from as many people as you do. Like I was jazzed by one comment back unrelated, and the fact that you're putting people's story out there. Do men ever respond back where are they a reformed abuser? Do they see themselves in it, or do
Probably
you
do?
Right.
I've seen comments where I'm so tired of these movies showing men beating women. We don't all do that, but we have to show the ones that are doing it.
Correct.
Okay, these are bad things that they're doing, so we have to show it so they can seek help.
Right.
You know.
Do you think that like your abuser, are they different now?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay.
Oh God. Oh, we get along fine.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That
Did
was
he take accountability? Was that part of your relationship now because he owned what he did?
Oh, he owned what he did. He apologized to me. It was like 2 a.m. one time. I got the phone call. He apologized. I had already forgiven him though.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't be able to go on. But anyway, I forgave him, and he apologized. He got it right. And now we are like not
Were you
best
shocked
friends.
to get the call?
Yeah. Come on.
What came out of like why 2 a.m. Why that day? Any idea?
I don't know. I don't care.
No, 100% right.
What I mean was, I don't know, but I didn't never think I didn't.
It didn't matter what made the call as long as
I don't, because I didn't even know I was going to get it. That's what shocked me. I was like, "What in the world? 2:00 in the morning?" I just didn't understand it. But but I received it, and we talked for about an hour, and he apologized.
Wow.
So and now, like I said, we are not best friends, but we are cordial and we can get along fine. And I have nothing against him.
No, that's
we were younger. I was in my 20s. 21, having a baby. I had 2 toddlers. It was rough.
And I think that's where anyone hearing this, right? You're on the other side of it now, friends with the person who abused. Like it almost sounds like a Hollywood ending. Like how, because a lot of people's story doesn't end that way. And you found forgiveness before he made that 2:00 call because of your faith, I imagine, right? Because if you didn't forgive him, you were going to be held hostage,
exactly.
Right?
Or the next person would have got it,
Yeah. Do you think, and maybe this is too personal, did he ever do it to anybody else? Do you know?
I don't know.
No. Okay.
I don't know about his. I don't know what he's got going on now, but I would hope he doesn't.
Right. You would hope that huge decision to call it 2 would be him making amends to never do it again.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you really take accountability, it's not something you're like, I'm sorry to you, but I'm going to do it again. But
well, I think all of it happened. I'm opinionated. Mouthy.
Is that why we get along?
Absolutely. I've been told I'm opinionated. I'm mouthy. It's all kinds of things. So, and that's always been me, an outgoing person. So I'm going to speak on it. And I think, I was 21 and we got married. We were young. We didn't know what we were doing. I didn't know how to be a wife. Didn't know any of that. So I think, now let me just keep it real. If I was to marry him now, I think it'd be totally different.
Right.
But because we were young, we did not know what we was doing. I did not know how to be a wife. I had to be taught. And so as I grew up 7 years later, it was too late because it was too much damage done.
But there was nothing that you did in the learning on the fly to be a wife, to be a couple, that would have ever deserved abuse, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's what I think is so important. But young or old is that there's nothing that ever makes that okay.
Yeah.
And he didn't have the proper skills, I would think, to cope with, hey, I'm struggling, find the words for I'm a young dad. I don't know what the hell's going on here.
No,
right.
We needed that.
And it came out in abuse. Right.
He needed his own. We both did. I was coming from childhood trauma. And I don't know about his child. I think his childhood was pretty good. But he needed therapy as well. We both did at the same time. And so you imagine 2 damaged people marrying each other. It's insane.
Yeah.
But now that I know what I know now, I'm going to wait.
Right.
I'm going to wait.
Right. But I think that's such a powerful message, and why you put it in your art, which is raw. Now, when you're writing, does it bring you back to that dark place?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you float above it, or do you feel like you're in it again?
Well, when I was writing Escape Devotion, and I wrote that in a week, it was hard to actually see that movie because some of those parts came from my life. And so that's why when people say it's not realistic, please.
You're like, it's autobiographical.
Yeah. It's some of that stuff is real. So, I didn't want to say based on a true story because it's not really my story, but it's inserts of my story.
Right.
So I didn't want to say based on a true story, but it has something to do with me. So when I see people say it's not realistic, it just kind of makes me upset because it is real.
Did you prep your kids for it?
No.
No. Okay.
My daughter, she watched it as, well, the people that's cast in it, my nephew was the lead.
Okay.
And she was watching it like he wasn't the lead, like that wasn't her cousin she was watching.
Right,
You know,
right.
she was watching a movie.
Was it hard for them to see, knowing there are parts of it that are autobiographical?
I don't think
did
she
they
knew.
just okay.
I don't my daughter don't remember a lot of that.
Gotcha.
You know, when we used to go through our little escapades, she was never really around.
Okay.
She was most of the time with her grandmother.
Okay.
So she doesn't remember a lot of it. I tried not to do that around my children.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's ultimately the reason why I left.
Which is another full-time, part-time job, hiding it from the public because you're working,
yeah.
hiding it from your children, maybe hiding it from your mom or telling your mom to help with the kids. Like, I mean, you've got so many balls in the air and all the plates are spinning. And if you stop for a second, pew.
Well, I hid it from my family.
Ugh.
They didn't know until towards the end.
They never picked up on it? Did you want them to help?
Because I know my family. That was not going to be good.
No. Okay.
So I just left it alone. You know, I was kind of distant. It was probably about a year I didn't see them.
Oh, okay.
I was, you know, with his side of the family, and that's when they started picking up something.
And did they
right.
know? His side of the family know anything was up, or you just were so good at acting?
I can't remember.
Okay.
I think we played a good role.
See, that's a role you didn't want to be cast in.
We played a really good role. And see, I would make it look like I was having the best time of my life with, you know, and that's why I think people was shocked when they found out, you know. So, but you know, I'm working on my actual book of my life, and the truth will come out. Yeah. So, you know, I'm very transparent. I don't have nothing to hide. So
no, and I think that's so brave because, you know, even as we wrap up this episode, like, even though it hasn't touched me, it might be somebody else watching this in a different country, different time zone, all over the place. And the fact that you're on the other side of it and being transparent, because by hiding it, all you did was, you know, have this awful chapter of your life prolonged. And maybe had you told your family sooner or sought help sooner, but like maybe this is that's why I wanted to do this, because you are, you know, like in inspo for a lot of reasons, and the professional and following your dreams. That's why you're like, what did you want to talk about? And I was like, what didn't I? Because think about, like, you're very nonchalant, right? I just wrote a movie in a week. Like, okay. Yeah. Like, so many people, that sounds impossible, but to have your gift, whatever your gift is, I think is having the courage to buy the $1,200 camera, whatever it is. If it's the running shoes, if it's the car, if it's the food truck, whatever that thing is. Like, the podcast doesn't have to be about filmmaking per se.
Right.
You took a risk, probably charged $1,200 you didn't have on a credit card you weren't ready to pay off, because that's my story too. And like, paying for this, I had to borrow it from my mom, and I finally paid her back thanks to the company. Awesome. But I'm sorry that my little extra income came from, unfortunately, your store closing, but that's how we met.
That's how
so it's
we
like,
met.
I can't be, I'm sorry, obviously, about the career turn, but I'm fascinated by sort of how it all comes around. And I thought you had such info to share. And I'm excited, and I've got to see all the movies. And so we're going to do all your links, put everything in there so everybody can follow, and you can have all sorts of new groupies. But yeah, so anything else you want to add for your adoring audience?
No, just keep going. If you have a vision, dream, goal, just keep going. And I always get the same question: how do you get started? So now I'm asking predictable questions. Well, no. Everyone always asks me that.
Well, because filmmaking isn't like, if I say I started my own business, oh, wow. Like, oh, okay, maybe how'd you get started? But filmmaking is not only your own business, but like, we think of like, that's an insane thing to break into.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know.
It is.
Yeah.
It's rough. Because you go through a lot on set. A lot.
And that's the one thing before you go, when you were saying, again, I say, and when one of your actors you were saying used to say so as sort of a bridge, and you're like, but I didn't write so. I thought that was so interesting because you've written every word. It's planned out. Every word is there for a reason, and it's got to be so hard, attention to detail, and you can't just let an or a so go through because then it might change the tenor of a scene. And I thought that was really interesting.
They do it a lot. Because they'll say, well, I'm not going to call them out, but they say, well, because, or so, is to help them get to the next part they're supposed to remember.
Right. Yeah.
And I constantly get on them about that.
And for this medium, fine. Maybe it's annoying to some audience members. Maybe it's not. But for your film, it's completely different.
Yeah.
And do you find, and we'll wrap it up on this. So as a woman, right? Like, if your last name is Martin Scorsese, you can say, I didn't write it that way. redo, and you do it, you're a bitch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you're
yeah.
moody.
Yeah.
You didn't, your blood sugar, like all the
Yeah.
things we get, you're mouthy or this or that, instead of it just being assertive and you have a vision, like we're bitchy or she's moody or she's whatever. And I find that, again, it's sort of that age old thing that if you're assertive, like, no, that's how I wrote it. But when we sort of push, like, how do you not give up your integrity of your script
It's hard.
to not be well liked, right?
Well, see,
so
it's
the cast
hard
doesn't hate you.
But see, it's hard for me because I film, write, direct, produce. I do it all in that room by myself. So I'm behind the camera. I'm directing. So it's hard because it's like, okay, I have a script supervisor, but somebody reading. But if it's not word for word, I don't really care. The only thing I care about is if you leave out a word that connects the script.
Right.
That's gonna be a problem. Right. But other than that, not right now.
Right.
Now, when I have my whole team, you can't be doing that.
Right.
Because I want you to learn, what I wrote.
The right way to do it.
Deliver what I wrote. But sometimes I be letting them slide because it's like, okay, whatever, let's go.
Right, but then you get mad at yourself when you're back and you're like, I shouldn't have let that
when I
one
go
go.
to editing.
Right.
When I edited it. And
then you're mad at the director, which is also
me.
you. Right.
Dang, I should have said something.
Right.
But
like that damn producer, she let me down, and it's you.
Yeah, it's me. But the cast, they always say, I know she gonna fix it. That's their thing. They say it. Oh, you gonna fix it, Miss K. That's what they call it.
Right.
You gonna fix it. And so they don't care.
Right.
Yeah, so,
because they edit, but it's like Photoshop, right?
Right.
Like I always say to Zach, one chin, but like he can't actually make a second chin go away. But they think you're just going to put
they think
pixie dust and exactly.
Oh, yeah. So, but I wouldn't have it no other way. The cast that I have is just family.
Oh.
Family getting together, making movies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you came. And I hope, honestly, more than anything, is dreams. And then maybe I think Zach will link the domestic violence hotline because I think it's important to have it because it should be there should be a link ready to go because if it's your moment to take action watching this, then we'll have the info and you have to watch all her movies and they're good.
Yes.
So like I said, I'm thrilled. Thanks for coming in studio, the first guest. So thanks, guys.